Yo, Jack, I just read on Schoology we got this BIOCHEM project due next week.
Yeah, I think our two topics are supposed to be like biofuels and sea butterflies.
Alright, we got time. We'll start tomorrow.
Yeah.
Day 2.
We don't need to start today. We still got more time.
Yeah, we're good.
Day 3.
We still got more time. We don't need to start right now.
Day 4. Tomorrow for sure.
Wake up.
3:28 a.m.
Yo, we gotta get this project done.
I know.
Alright, Jack, what's the first thing we have to do for this project?
On the rubric it says we need to explain the science behind biofuels.
Alright, I got this part. So the question we have to ask ourselves is, what are biofuels? Biofuels are designed to replace gasoline, diesel fuel, and coal, which are called fossil fuels, because they are made from animals and plants that died millions of years ago. Well, biofuels are made mostly from plants that have just been harvested. There are three main types of biofuel: ethanol, biodiesel, and biojet fuel. Ethanol is used in engines that burn gasoline, like most cars. Biodiesel is used in engines that burn diesel fuel, like large trucks and tractors, while biojet fuel is used in planes.
Alright, Evan, I think we should probably explain how biofuels work too.
Alright, I got this part. We can do it in a PowerPoint.
Yeah.
So how are biofuels made? The method used for producing ethanol is different than the method used for producing a biodiesel. What they share in common is the first step for both is to grow the plant that will eventually be used to make the fuel. For ethanol, once the plant, such as corn or sugarcane for instance, have been harvested, bacteria are allowed to digest it. When they do this, under special conditions where oxygen levels are kept low, it is called fermentation. Fermentation produces ethanol. For biodiesel, the process requires chemical reactions. There are several different chemical reactions that can be used to produce a biodiesel, the most common of which is called transesterification. This is just a fancy word to describe the process of breaking down fats in the presence of methanol, another type of alcohol. So this first chemical equation is for the production of ethanol. Now this is fairly simple. All it is ethylene combined with water or H2O to create the ethanol. However, the second equation is for the creation of a biodiesel, which is a bit more complicated. First off, on the reactant side, you usually need an alcohol, but it is normally methanol since that's one of the most simple type of alcohols with one central carbon atom and then triglyceride. And then you need a catalyst, which is usually NaOH or KOH, to produce glycerol and methyl esters, which is the biodiesel. Now, both of these equations are in an ideal world. Obviously, there are outside factors that can affect these equations, but this is what we want to happen if it's 100% efficient. Now, you may be wondering, what kinds of things can a biofuel be made from? The source used to make a biofuel is called a feedstock. Ethanol can be made from any of the following feedstock: corn, sugarcane, sugar beet, wheat, grass, and really most inedible parts of plants. For biodiesels, it's a little different, but the main ones are canola oil, palm oil, peanut oil, vegetable oil, animal fat, and a few more, but those are the core. So, the biofuel is really growing in today's society. About 25 billion gallons of ethanol are made each year for the use of fuel, and about 1 billion gallons of biodiesel are produced each year, but this is still a pretty new fuel, so there's still a lot to learn. Now, there are many benefits to biofuel. The first benefit is the cost. As of now, biofuels cost the same in the market as gasoline does. However, the overall cost benefit of using them is much higher. They are cleaner fuels, which means they produce fewer emissions on burning. Additionally, biofuels are adaptable to current engine designs and perform very well in most conditions. This keeps the engine running for longer, requires less maintenance, and brings down overall pollution check costs. With the increased demand of biofuels, they have the potential of becoming cheaper in the future as well, so the use of biofuels will be less of a drain on the wallet. Now, the next benefit is that they are renewable. Most of the fossil fuels will expire and end up in smoke one day. Since most of the sources like manure, corn, switchgrass, soybeans, and waste from crops and plants are renewable and are not likely to run out at any time soon, making the use of biofuels efficient in nature. These crops can be replanted again and again. As you can see from this chart, it's the cycle of a biofuel. It goes from the algae to the oil extraction, to the biodiesel production, to the renewable fuel, existing technology, and once it comes out of the car into CO2, the algae just picks it up again, and the biofuel cycle keeps going and going and going. Now, the next benefit is the economic security. Not every country has large reservoirs of crude oil. For them, having to import the oil puts a huge dent in the economy. If more people started shifting towards biofuels, a country can reduce its dependence on fossil fuels. More jobs will be created with a growing biofuel industry, which will keep our economy secure. Now, this benefit goes hand in hand with the reduced dependence on foreign oil. While locally grown crops has reduced the nation's dependence on fossil fuels, many experts believe that it will take a long time to solve our energy needs. As prices of crude oil are touching sky high, we need some more alternative energy solutions to reduce our dependence on fossil fuels. So those are just the main benefits of biofuels. Now, wherever there's benefits, there's always drawbacks. So the first drawback is the future rise in price. Current technology being employed for the production of biofuels is not as efficient as it should be. Scientists are engaged in developing better means by which we can extract this fuel. However, the cost of research and future installation means that the price of biofuels will see a significant spike. As of now, the prices are comparable with gasoline and are still feasible. Constantly rising prices may make the use of biofuels as harsh on the economy as the rising gas prices are doing right now. But this is all potential crisis and nothing that should stop us from working on biofuels as of right now. Now, the next drawback is monoculture. So monoculture is basically the practice of producing the same crops year after year rather than producing various crops throughout a farmer's fields over time. While this might be economically attractive for farmers, but growing the same crop every year may deprive the soil of the nutrients that are put back into the soil through crop rotation, having negative effects on our environment. The next drawback is the use of fertilizers. Biofuels are produced from the crops, and these crops need fertilizers to grow better. The downside of using fertilizers is that they can have harmful effects on the surrounding environment and may cause water pollution. Fertilizers contain nitrogen and phosphorus. They can be washed away from soil to nearby lake, rivers, or ponds, again hurting our environment. The next downside to biofuels is the shortage of food. Biofuels are extracted from plants and crops that have high levels of sugar in them. However, most of these crops are also used as food crops. Even though waste material from plants can be used as raw material, the requirement for such food crops will still exist. It would take up agricultural space from other crops, which can create a number of problems. Even if it does not cause an acute shortage of food, it will definitely put pressure on the current growth of crops. One major worry being faced by people is that the growing use of biofuels may just mean a rise in food prices as well. Now, the final drawback goes hand in hand with this, which is water use. Large quantities of water are required to irrigate the biofuel crops, and it may impose strain on local and regional water sources if not managed wisely. In order to produce corn-based ethanol to meet local demand for biofuels, massive quantities of water are used that could put unsustainable pressure on local water resources. Now, these are some of the drawbacks to biofuels. But it is up to us in society to figure out if the benefits override the drawbacks.
Boom, Jack, we killed that part.
Yeah, you did. But you forgot to mention the effects of greenhouse gases, pollution, and things of that nature.
I left that out for a special reason. It's a bit complicated for biofuels, but I got it.
So you may have noticed in the benefits and drawbacks section, I left out the question, are biofuels better for the environment? The jury is still out on this one. Some people say that biofuels are better because the carbon dioxide they produce is taken up when new biofuel crops are grown. So there is no net increase in carbon dioxide, which is a greenhouse gas. Other people point out that energy has to be invested into growing biofuels. For instance, land has to be plowed and fertilizer must be applied. When you take all of these factors into account, biofuels actually produce more carbon dioxide than fossil fuels. These people are worried that too much land will be cleared to produce biofuels, which will threaten habitat and cause some plants and animals to become extinct. Right now, people are trying to figure out how to make biofuel production more efficient so that we get more energy out than we put into growing the crops. This should be possible because most of the energy comes from the sun, so if we cut down on how much preparation is involved, we might be able to ensure that biofuels are environmentally friendly. This graph is of U.S.'s ethanol production in millions of gallons between 1998 and 2011. As you can see, the growth has been consistently increasing year after year, and this rapid growth is projected to continue. Now, for biodiesel, hasn't had the same exact success. The U.S. is only producing about 1 million gallons per year. However, it is projected to start taking off similarly to ethanol. These two graphs show what's so great about biofuel. The first chart shows how there's so many different kinds of renewable resources that can be used to create the biofuels. Then the second graph shows how in over 3 different continents biofuels can be produced, so we're not just relying on one country or continent to give us all of our energy. So the destiny of biofuels really relies on the cost. Can scientists find a way to lower the cost and increase the production of biofuels? Right now, biofuels are great. However, if we want to continue our research, that means the price for these are going to go up, and we're going to get an up and down bar graph. But we need that to stay consistent. And if we can keep that consistent, then biofuels may be a viable source of energy for the future.
All right, so we got the biofuel part done just in time. Definitely think we got an A in chem for that. Well,
Yeah, now we just have the sea butterflies. I'll start that right now.
all right, you got that, my man.
This is a pteropod. Pteropods are a type of plankton that are extremely common in most of the oceans around the world. Better known for their name, sea butterflies, this species is extremely vital to the aquatic ecosystem. The habitat of the sea butterfly is any saltwater ocean environment. They can survive and thrive in freezing waters of the Arctic as well as the waters of the Pacific and Atlantic. Due to the species being a part of the diet of a significant amount of animals, the sea butterfly can be seen as a keystone species. While the sea butterfly itself only consumes things such as smaller sea snails and algae, it is consumed by whales, crabs, fish, squid, jellyfish, and the list goes on. There are many different varieties of sea butterflies, some with shells, some without. However, they are pretty average when it comes to being well adapted to their environment. While they do have some adaptations that help them survive from smaller predators, the species is meant to be a food for many other organisms. Sea butterflies with a shell are much better adapted in comparison to the ones without. The shell allows them to retract their body and look just like another regular shell on the bottom of the sea floor. It can sometimes be clear, which is also much harder for predators to spot in the wide open ocean. In addition to their shell, the species also has wings, called parapodia. In this video, we can see how the animal uses the wings to move around, and while it may not be as effective as possible, the shape of the wings allow it to retract inside of the shell with no problem. The life cycle of a sea butterfly is somewhat odd compared to other species. The sea butterfly, roughly halfway through their lifetime, changes into a female. It carries the male sperm over to lay eggs. This process occurs in the summer, and the lifetime of the new sea butterflies usually lasts about 2 years.
Here we can see just a small section of the food web of the sea butterfly, with kelp and algae, which is the producer, as well as smaller sea snails being the only organisms that sea butterflies consume. Contradicting this, they are the prey to many different animals, some examples being jellyfish, squid, and crustaceans, which are all secondary consumers, as well as seagulls or other birds, which are tertiary consumers. On this food web, we can also see 2 decomposers, which are the bacteria and the crustaceans, which clean up the leftover energy from the other predators. While the prey of the sea butterflies is limited to these 2 for the most part, its amount of predators, which is much larger than what is shown on the food web.
All right, Jack. Awesome food web.
Thanks. I still got to talk about the ocean acidification, though.
All right, make it quick. It's almost time to submit.
This can start to give some insight into why ocean acidification plays such a significant role into the ecosystem. Currently, ocean acidification is more damaging to the physical organism rather than its habitat. Because sea butterfly shells are so sensitive to changes in the composition of water, an increase in ocean acidification can very negatively impact them. As a short summary, ocean acidification is the increase in carbon dioxide levels in the atmosphere, which in turn increase carbon dioxide levels in the ocean. From this diagram, we can see what an increase in ocean acidification can do to the shells of sea butterflies. After only 45 days, the shell is completely dissolved and is rendered useless to the organism. This in turn makes the organism much more vulnerable to other predators and eventually causes a decrease in population. Since the sea butterfly is eaten by so many species, all of these species would either need to adapt to find new prey or they would simply die out. This disruption in the ecosystem, if it continued for a long time, could cause multiple species to go extinct.
All right, Jack, I think we got all of the requirements done. Now it's just time to submit. We got like 5 minutes.